Good afternoon, good evening. I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Pflugerville City Council at 7 p.m. Ladies and gentlemen, if you'll stand for the pledge and moment of silence, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor under the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. You may be seated. We have a light crowd tonight, but very important. Thank you all for being here. So item number 3 is public comment. In accordance with the Texas Attorney General's opinion, any public comment that is made on an item that is not on the published agenda will only be heard by City Council. No formal action, discussion, deliberation, or comment will be made by City Council. Each person providing public comment will be limited to 3 minutes. Robert.
Thank you. My name is Robert Vandegein. We live at 101 East Pfluger Street. You may all know the house is the H.H. Pfluger and Olga Weiss house, one of the old Victorian houses. We also own a craftsman home across the street and then an empty lot downtown. I'd like to start by thanking you all and city staff for your commitment to this community. We are a great community because of the hard work that you all do. Our Old Town neighborhood is unique. It really has character. And we always feel like with all the changes that are happening that we might be threatened. So I'm here merely to sort of point out that to kindly take this into account as rezonings may appear in front of you. There are a number of empty lots just south of Pecan Street that would be very attractive to change from single family to perhaps business, but realize that this would really impact very long time neighbors who have been there, who already have suffered to some degree from noise from the central business district. And there's nothing specific happening. There are always rumors going around that someone may ask for rezoning. I'm not aware of anything truly being on the agenda about that. But I'm just here preemptively to remind you that this is a very unique area of Pflugerville and that quite a bit of thought needs to be given to changing that character. And that's all I have to say tonight. Thank you very much for your service.
Thank you, Robert. Is there anybody else wishing to make public comment? This is your chance. Any kind of public comment? Going once? Okay. Our next item is a presentation. I have a proclamation. Just one.
That's true. It's a slow month. If we're going with one at a time.
All right.
Way to go.
So, the city of Pflugerville, especially the city of Pflugerville, accepts and welcomes people of diverse backgrounds and believes a diverse population leads to a vibrant community. Pflugerville Pride was founded to celebrate the diversity in our community and to provide a place for all to gather in safety, acceptance, and love. The Pflugerville Pride Festival will be taking place on November 1st, 2025. However, I am proclaiming June 2025 as Pride Month in the city of Pflugerville, and we have members here from the Pflugerville Pride to accept the proclamation. We do or don't?
Yes.
Yeah, right there. I was like, we see it. I like how you were like,
I'm like, who's gonna?
Wait, where do we get the polos from? What's going on? That seems about right. Seems about right. Good. You adjourned.
Our next item is 4B, recognition of Central Texas Regional SWAT Team 10th anniversary. Commander Makiba will make a statement, and we'll take some pictures.
Good evening.
Look at his spectacles.
Before I start, I'd like to say happy belated 28th birthday to our own Serena Breland. Thank you very much for your service.
That in 26, but okay.
I didn't want to get in trouble by being 2 weeks. First of all, thank you, Mayor Gonzalez, Mayor Pro Tem Ms. Holliday, City Manager Breland, and members of the Pflugerville City Council. As many of you know, I am Commander Makiba Lewis. I'm here tonight with some of my fellow commanders with CTRS, Lieutenant Wyatt Riley, Lieutenant Darrell Parton with Leander PD, Wyatt's with Georgetown PD, Lieutenant, as you know, Anthony Campana, absent, who's in training, Lieutenant Robert Ducos with Cedar Park, and fellow members of the team representing Central Texas Regional SWAT Team. Today we stand before you in celebration of a remarkable milestone. June marks the 10th anniversary of the creation of Central Texas Regional SWAT Team. It's with great gratitude that we recognize your unwavering support, which has been instrumental in our success. This team has been dedicated to serving and protecting residents of the city of Pflugerville, Georgetown, Leander, and Cedar Park, and we're incredibly proud of the work that we've accomplished together. Since the Pflugerville Police Department joined the team in 2019, our officers have proudly contributed to 54 operations from the city of Pflugerville that have included the execution of narcotics, search warrants, arrest warrants, dignitary protection, and various other tactical missions, all with the shared goal of ensuring the safety of our communities. Your continued commitment to public safety has empowered us to serve with excellence, professionalism, and dedication. It's through your support that we're able to meet the challenges of law enforcement with confidence, knowing that we have the resources and backing necessary to protect our residents. As a token of our deep appreciation, we'd like to present each of you with a token of our appreciation, gratitude, and recognition. Thank you for standing with us and for believing in our mission for helping make Pflugerville a safer place for all. We look forward for your continued partnership. With that, we got some swag to give you.
All right, thank you.
What we did is we created a plaque for you. We're going to give this to each one of y'all. And Lieutenant Parton will come up here as well. This is for you, Mayor.
Oh, wow, thank you.
It's the challenge course. The challenge course.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much.
Dude, that's legit.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir, very much.
Amen.
Best challenge coins.
Thank you.
Absolutely, no trouble whatsoever. Thank you very
I
much.
don't know. You gotta walk all the way by Doug, blocking over there.
He's purposely doing it, okay? And Serena. Thanks, y'all. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And you know how they did this year too. Right. They did better than the Stars in Dallas. Yeah.
Always sports.
Thank you very much, Commander McKeeba.
No, run.
All right. Item 4C, a presentation regarding the communication department. And I know this is going to be awesome.
Oh, the pressure, yeah.
The pressure.
Well, good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Roger Haney. I'm your Director of Communications and Marketing. I'm so excited to be up here again today to tell you all about our department, specifically some of our achievements as well. We have members of the comms team actually here today. If you want to stand up, just kind of recognize them. Thanks for coming. My support group, yes. So yes, this is our communications team. I think I've gone over their names in the past, so I won't take time to do that. But our responsibilities are we provide marketing, communications, and media relations for the entire city, for every department as well, which is challenging to say the least. We're also on call PIO for the police department. We're on call for media 24/7. We do all the regular city communications. We also have a creative services department that does all of our video and all of our graphic design as well. We own and operate and constantly update 8 websites, which is a full-time job in itself. We also maintain PF Media, our new Roku video platform, and the PF Media app. If you haven't downloaded the app, you can. It's either on Apple or Google. Just type in PF Media, and you can download our video app and take it with you. And then just about a year and a half ago, we added tourism to our department too. And our main responsibilities there, as you know, is to promote our Explore Pflugerville tourism brand, which we've gone 0 to 60 in 5 seconds. It's been pretty exciting. On average, the department works on 221 projects a year, which is pretty amazing. We have some recent accolades to share as well. It makes me so proud of the team, but we just recently won the Excellence Award to the Texas Association of Municipal Information Officers for PF Insider, frontline work hard of the city. Hope you've been able to catch some of those episodes where we spotlight folks who are on the front lines here at the city. We're excited that we won the award for that. And then Flip and Serve, which you all took part in, which was a program that we work with CMO, where you all actually did jobs in the community, and then some of us played council members, and so we got to take a walk in each other's shoes. We also just got announced that we've won 2 Hermes Creative Awards as well. One was for our Year in Review publication, which you get in the mail as well. It won Best and a Report and the top award of the best publication overall, so we're really proud of that. We also won the Best Marketing Campaign for Deutsch Invest, which we put a lot of hard work into that as well. And then we were a finalist at TML for 2023 and 24. And then, as you all know, you probably saw the media release, we are now considered a tourism-friendly Texas designation through the governor's office. So that's another great accolade. Going through our communications tools briefly on our website, you know that we launched a brand new one on October 1st. So here's some of those numbers. Total visits were 2,819,000 combined. The average time on our site is now 2 minutes, 22 seconds. It's up from our previous site because we are offering more video programming, and it's also special event related as well, and it's more interactive, so people are staying with us a little longer. Some of the top view pages, not surprising, pause, 120,000 views since our last report. Police, 99,000. Library, 96, great job, Library. And I wanted to put Explore PF in there because it is something new. We get about 308 visitors to the website, and that keeps climbing as well. Our print communications, as you know, Year in Review magazine goes out pretty much early January every year, goes out to 25,926 residents. It's direct mail to the homes. And then Flyer, which is our utility bill stuffer, goes out to 14,000 residents as well. And that's when we hit all the highlights of what's going on for the month. We have print communications as well. We have a contract with Community Impact Magazine. They're a great partner of ours. And so we have a digital ad and 2 print ads every single month. And you can see some of the promotions that we've done with them. Of course, Juneteenth coming up. And then, of course, our annual event, big event, Slice of Pflugerville. Also communications tools, PF Media, Roku, and our new app, we had 167,990 streams. Our Key to the City subscriber base now is up to 22,774, which is a great number. And our PF Alerts is now up to 23,729. All of our subscriptions and people signing up have increased, and they continue to do so. Communications tools, going to social media briefly. Facebook, we have a combined total of followers of a little over 167,000. Instagram, we have 15,364. And then X, 23,700 and some change.
What about
Yeah.
TikTok?
I'm sorry?
TikTok.
We don't actually have TikTok.
Going back to Facebook, that's combined over all of the
It
various
is, yes, because we have various Facebook pages for various departments.
Yeah, I follow
Yeah.
5 or 6 of them, I think. What's our unique number on that? Do we have a deduped number? You know,
I could look that up for you when we were pulling stats. I have additional stats in my office. I can let you know about that. Are you talking like total reach numbers?
no. I'm talking about unique followers, because I count as 5 or 6 because I've followed several different.
Oh, got it. Okay.
The City of Pflugerville Facebook, municipal, police, Parks and Rec. Yeah, Shane, I'm watching you, and so forth. So I'm just curious if we dedupe that. Is it because I'm seeing numbers that look to me like we're getting consistently somewhere in the 18,000 to 25,000 for almost all of our media reach, which would be probably close to 70% of households in Pflugerville?
Yeah, yes, sir. If not even a little more. We can have Angelique pull that. She is our social media specialist. She's here actually tonight, so we can pull those numbers for you.
Yeah, I'd like
you're
to, if we are getting 70 to 80% reach in the community, that's very, very, very impressive.
Yeah, and even in our last resident survey, Facebook moved up like 2 pegs when we were gauging residents on how they get information from the city. So that actually went up 2 pegs, which kind of surprised us. It did and it didn't, but yeah, social media is where it's at. And this day and age, you have to pay to play. So we have done some boosted posts. If it's something new, we want to reach more residents with that information. We do that as well. But yeah, they're constantly all going up.
Is it boosting about the new things we're doing, like the Explore Pflugerville? Have we boosted a post about our new legislative designation as the Trail Capital of Texas?
Yeah, we usually, anything that's new, we'll do a boost that we're announcing. We did it for Juneteenth, of course, because that's kind of a newer event for us. It's a branded event for Juneteenth. And what we'll usually do is do boosts on our actual pages, so people will like our pages. So it gets dished out to people. We can segment out an audience and then take out what they call a boosted ad for your page. And then people can like it from that point on. But there's several ways that, we can pay to play on social. It used to be where you didn't have to pay to play. Now we do. So we have a small budget to do that. And then social media still going. YouTube, 167,000 views, 990. LinkedIn, we have 15,364 followers. And our total reach, if you combine everything, is a little over 9 million total reach for about an annual period. We just kind of pulled a general total reach number for all of our communications tactics. Also, media relations, we actually subscribe to 2 services that pulls media stories for us. So anytime Pflugerville is mentioned, we actually can get a tally on that. So for TV, it was 4,203 for the year, and then radio, 62 mentions. And then I think you all have met our PIO, Jessica Taylor. We actually do targeted pitches for events and those type of things. It's a little more challenging right now to get Austin media to come out to Pflugerville, but we've been pretty successful, and those numbers keep climbing as well. So that's great. Well, we have a lot to talk about. I mean, you can see our dream come true construction starts on Downtown East, and then, of course, our big State of the City address as well.
That radio number seems really low.
We focus more on TV, though, and social. So we don't really do a whole lot of buys with radio. I mean, they get our media releases, but no, you're right, they don't pick us up as much.
That's an average of just over 1 mention of Pflugerville on all radio stations a week?
No, that's, I believe, for the year. But if you look at our TV, it's
Right, so 62 mentions
So-
a year is just over once a week. And how many radio stations are there in this market?
Well, I wanted to just say that, maybe a lot of people aren't listening to the radio
It's
as
more
much
digital
as they
services
used
now.
to. Different sources, and so that's not too bad.
Yeah.
I was about to say,
Seems-
there's nothing. Yeah, I was about to. I mean, our firm actually.
I'll be calling it
advertises-
out on my show
Yeah.
every Friday.
Yeah, music has become.
So then you're-
52
there you
of
go.
those
So she's 52 out of
52.
62. That's
We listen to you, Mayor Pro Tem.
But no, but in all sincerity, just to her point, I mean, my firm advertises on NPR and KUT, all the time, and we get very few hits on there as opposed to something that's on social media or something like that. It's a
And
different
music,
form
yeah.
what people listen to.
What about
But,
newspaper?
We can pull that for you as well.
Oh, okay.
We didn't put everything on here because I only have 5 minutes. So I just wanted to give you the high level.
Extending your.
He's at 10:20.
Okay.
I just have to think that the whatever the source is that is reporting that is underreporting.
Well, just to be clear, is that earned media?
Or is that
It's radio mentions in general, whenever
So-
they mention
in general.
Pflugerville.
so obviously if we're running an ad on radio, we're not counting that there.
Correct. This is what we call earned media.
If we're if there's a car accident and they're saying, "Hey, avoid this street in Pflugerville," we're not
Yep.
counting that.
Well, if it says City of Pflugerville, we are.
I would just say that.
That
Because there's 2
62 number
services
is
that we
low.
subscribe to that pulls the media
Yeah.
numbers.
We get 62 mentions a year from traffic accidents alone.
I can't tell you the last time I tuned into a radio station.
I
do it
if it's
every
not,
morning.
if it's
I'm
not
not
on
talking about-
Spotify or
I'm
Lithium,
not talking about how
not
many
hearing it.
people listen to it. I'm talking about how many times the city gets mentioned on a radio station. One radio station will mention us 62 times a year just on traffic. I just don't believe that number. I think that number is
Yeah, we
way
subscribe-
lower than the actual
We subscribe to a
radio
company called
mentions.
Critical Mention that pulls media stats for us. So we kind of go by the industry standards.
So you went with the industry standards who are experts in this field who would be cognizant of whether or not that number is
Yes.
appropriate.
And I can look, see how it compares. Yeah.
We're being mentioned, 100 times more often on TV than we are on radio.
I would think absolutely. I mean,
There are only 3 TV stations. There are 20 radio
do you
stations.
think people are listening to Amos and Andy? Like, I mean, what? I'm really trying to figure out how this is surprising to you.
And yeah.
I'm surprised that only that there is a measurement out there for mentions of Pflugerville on the radio that only mentioned us 62 times. I just don't believe that that's accurate. I'm not saying everybody here listens to the radio 62 times a year, but I'm saying there are radio stations in the area. We have a little less than 10% of the population of the county, and they only mention us 62 times over all of the radio stations.
So
That's
I
an
don't
average
listen
of
to the radio.
3 times per radio
Yeah.
station.
Well, but look, if you don't listen to the radio stations, I don't either, okay? But if I tune in that one time, what's the probability that Pflugerville is going to be mentioned the one time that I do listen?
Yeah, and I subscribe
Probably
to
zip.
digital music services, so you don't really.
I was going to say,
Okay.
how many of us are doing that now? Right?
Yeah.
What's this slide about?
So let's go. Yeah. Well, going up next, we're launching a brand new program called PF Finds. You can check out the logo there. That's our new tourism video show. We'll actually be creating content for video content now for Explore Pflugerville. So we're taking that to the next level as well. We're super excited about that. Carla, who handles our tourism, will be hosting that one. We're also working on another show called Stroll and Share in the Plaza, where they'll be able to meet more senior leaders of the city. And we're still developing that one and kind of pitching it, but that's in the works too. And then, we just launched Flash Vote, which we now have 693 residents signed up for
That
that
was great.
service. Yeah, where it's a 5 or 6 question quick hit survey. We're going to be able to do that 6 to 7 times a year on issues that we want to gauge residents on. And then we take that, obviously that data, and put it into action. So thanks so much.
In one of the surveys in the future, you might ask, do you listen to the radio?
If you look at our community survey, it's way down as well. any type of radio, fighting out city information on radio.
Yeah, that's one of the options there on how do you get your information from the city, right?
Yes, it is.
Walkie-talkies. an
No,
option
but
too as well.
it's an option, but do you listen to the
Do you
radio
keep-
is the question.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, thanks so much, y'all. Thanks for letting us share.
Great job.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was about to say, we're literally the 15th best place to live in the country. I think we're doing all right.
All right, let's move on. Moving on. Item 5F has been removed from consent. Council, any other items you wish to pull?
Could I have item 5 echo?
Trista, you know what
Five.
5 Echo is?
5 Echo, you said?
Yeah, that's
Yeah, I was going to pull that one. Okay, that's fine.
Okay. All right.
Okay, we have items 5E and 5F pulled for the consent agenda. 5A is approving an ordinance on first reading with the caption reading an ordinance amending and updating the City of Pflugerville Code of Ordinances, Title 15, Land Usage, Chapter 158, Stormwater Pollution Control Ordinance, providing cumulative repealer and severability clauses, providing for open meeting, and establishing an effective date. Again, items 5E and F have been pulled. All remaining items may be acted upon in a single motion.
Move to approve?
Second.
Motion and second. And motion carried. Thank you. All right. Moving on to the regular agenda. Item 6A is discuss and consider second reading of an ordinance with a caption reading, an ordinance of the City of Pflugerville, Texas, amending ordinance number 1203-15-02-24 of the City of Pflugerville, Texas, as amended by rezoning an approximate 5.927 acre tract situated in the William Caldwell Survey, number 66, abstract number 162, Travis County, Texas, generally located at 3315 East Pecan Street from Urban Center Level 5 to Campus Industrial District to be known as the 3315 East Pecan Street rezoning, providing for repeal of conflicting ordinance, providing for severability, and providing an effective date.
Thank
Emily.
you. Good evening, Mayor, Council. Tonight is the second reading of a request for 3315 East Pecan. Council did hear this for first reading at the end of April. Here's the property before you. It's a 5.927 acre tract. It's currently vacant. It's currently owned by Encore, and it's the balance of their bird's nest station that you see there on the front or the northern end of the site along Pecan. The applicant currently owns the property immediately to the east of the tract and is developing that for light industrial and includes the extension of Weiss south to Cameron. And this project would essentially be combined with that property in order to provide access through to Weiss from this tract. Here's the current.
Could you clarify for me, is that adjacent property currently zone CI or is that a PUD?
It's currently zoned campus industrial.
Okay, thank you.
You can see that here in this image. The property is currently zoned corridor level 5, which is outlined there in the black, with the rest of the kind of the maroon tract there, campus industrial immediately to the east of the tract. The multifamily that you're all familiar with is located to the west, and I'll show you an image earlier, which we didn't have at the first reading, and I think is a great visual to kind of help articulate really some of the constraints of this particular piece of property, and really how it's bounded by a lot of complications. The Aspire Pflugerville 2040 plan calls this area as appropriate for employment, and you see that highlighted there in the purple. Here's the visual we didn't have for you all during first reading, and you can see this is generally the general site plan of that campus industrial tract, which outlines all of the employment opportunities that Endeavor, the applicant, is working towards. The kind of hatched kind of trail through there, which is the extension of Weiss to Eldon, connects to Cameron, was part of a project they've been working on with our CIP team in order to provide that extension. This particular tract with all the colors you can see is kind of outlined there in orange immediately to the west of the site, Encore substation to the north. When we discussed during first reading was really kind of the access issues with this particular tract. To the south was what we didn't show. was access to 130. It did have a pier, like it would have access to that. There is a bit of frontage, does not front on the roadway, and then there's a triangular piece that you see there in blue that's also owned by the property owners that own the multifamily. So really a lot of constrained frontage for this particular piece of property. Additionally, the Encore substation, which will be retained by Encore, limits that access as well.
Is that triangle to the south that's owned by the apartment complex, is that drainage, or is it just excess property?
Just excess property.
Access.
Yeah. We believe it was a remnant from probably property purchased for 130 when it went through.
So is there some reason this development is not attempting to acquire that property as well to integrate into the site?
That I don't have the answer to that. The property owners or the applicant is here that can address that better. The other additional information here is there's a water and electric easement that divides this property immediately to the west between the multifamily in this particular tract. And so you've got a lot of overhead utilities as well as underhead utilities for this particular piece of property. Here, additionally, some visual we didn't have during the first reading was kind of that view from if you're standing on Pecan and you're looking south toward that tract is behind the Encore substation.
Is that where potential road would be to gain access to that lot?
There potentially could be an easement, but it's a fairly distant distance, so it would probably be a driveway.
Okay.
Okay, so just kind of limits, I guess the point here is that it kind of limits the uses that would be likely to go back there if it weren't combined with an adjacent project. Here's the view from 130, which is, as you can see here, a lot of vegetation that outlines kind of the apartment frontage, the Encore frontage of that tract that's under consideration today, a view of the existing transmission lines and the additional apartment frontage in that triangular piece of land.
So Emily, just to narrow the focus of this and kind of move it forward, just like you said, we've had this before and we had a long conversation about this. Are you conveying to us essentially that maybe not it necessitates the need to be part of another project or another entity to fold into this, but pretty much because of the limitations that are involved here, we're not likely to see any sort of dramatic or impactful usage otherwise, if not part of another project?
I do believe that to be the case. I think it also, the first reading, a specific use permit came up as an option. Specific use permits are a great tool, and I guess I would just want to revisit that just slightly, is that specific use permits for this particular use was part of the reason why we created the campus industrial district altogether. So the 130 Commerce Park, there's a lot of specific use permits to permit exactly this. An employment center that doesn't have outdoor storage, that hides the loading docks. Well, because we were getting so many of those, we created a district that was appropriate for employment that had these types of uses along this district without seeking a specific use permit, which offers a little more flexibility to the landowner and the developer of the property, because they have that flexibility in going into more details for drainage, for parking, for site layout, in a more sequential part of the process, which is more normal versus way up front. And so we didn't feel like the specific use permit, certainly they could pursue that. I believe that we would probably likely put the same conditions we'd have on it as we would have zoned it for campus industrial. And so it's a really interesting piece of property, not one I think we have in many other areas, mostly because it's behind the substation, limited frontage, and kind of sandwiched in between multifamily, electric easement, water easement, and then a property that is being developed for employment, which is also appropriate through the comprehensive plan. And so wanted to share that information with you all, these visuals that we didn't have last time, seek additional guidance in your action. The applicant is here. We still do recommend the request to Campus Industrial, and the Planning and Zoning Commission did as well. Should the council vote to approve it tonight, this would seek a third reading in order to seek the 2 affirmative actions on the request. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Emily, I got a couple questions for you. Could you give me a quick overview of the overlap between CL5 and CI zoning?
Sure, there's quite a bit of overlap actually in the CL5 and CI zoning. So there are things like call centers, clinics, colleges and universities, convention centers, distribution and logistics, government facilities, healthcare, hospitals, hotels, industrial uses. The one distinction there is a specific use permits required in CL5, parks, churches, research and development centers, retail sales, trade schools, and transit facilities. Some of the bigger pieces related to the CL5 district, though, that aren't included in CI are some residential uses. A variety of automotive, brew pubs, civic centers, daycare facilities, dry cleanings, banks, gas stations, other major retailers, personal services, mini warehouse and public. Oh, that one's not there. Mobile food parks, museums, as well as personal service restaurants not related to one of the campus or employment uses, like you can still have some kind of built-in cafeterias, things like that, schools and theaters.
So it sounds like there are quite a few options for this development to integrate that site with the existing zoning, perhaps with the current use that they have on the site plan and the renderings that we have now. Maybe that's not exactly what would fit in that space, but they could still add this property to their development with the current zoning in place. They would just have to rearrange things to ensure that what goes on that parcel meets the CL5 options rather than the CI options. Is that accurate?
That's true.
Yeah.
They could look at some of those uses. I think here, this visual where they're planning for this employment, larger, light industrial type uses, then you look at what would actually be feasible from the market, and certainly the applicant can speak to that better about kind of how you would transition to, say, a restaurant or something there, and then also would people want to transition through an employment center to get to something that's maybe more of a retail or restaurant type use. And so I think that that's probably fairly limited in why they pursued adding to or expanding slightly this 5.9 acres to this particular project that's considered for the light industrial that you see here.
Certainly it could be limited, but it's not nil. I really appreciate you bringing up this slide, though, because this surprised me when I saw it in the packet. This did not meet my expectations. And I don't remember if we've had conversations about this in the past. I feel like we have. I know I've been involved in some conversations. Maybe I just don't remember where they occurred. But I don't remember Weiss Lane dead-ending into an intersection within this development. My expectation was that Weiss Lane would curve through this development to align with Cameron. All the renderings I had seen were wavy lines, not straight lines. And so I was kind of surprised to see, this layout for the development to begin with. Is this something that's already going through process?
Working on the Weiss Lane, the layout for the project, yes. But I believe, and not to lean to Thomas or the applicant, that there is still opportunities to extend Weiss. So like we showed it on the bond, that has that more smooth transition from Cameron over to Weiss up to Pecan.
Would there be a reason we wouldn't want it to go all the way to the frontage road?
I don't believe we can actually access it to the frontage road for TxDOT or the toll 40.
Okay.
Why, would that be a competing lane?
Okay. Okay.
Is your expectation then that Weiss Lane would continue to the south and curve to Cameron? Because I was under the impression it would be curving through this development. Is this just, am I zoomed in too close?
Doug, can you use your pointer and show us what you're looking at? But sure. I think that's probably easier for everybody on here.
Well, for us.
Well, I mean, you'll have to.
He's talking to us. Yeah.
You'll have to see it on this one, right?
Yeah.
But my expectation was this curving around to align to Cameron.
Oh. Okay.
Okay.
And,
so if it were
and
to
hopefully
come this
you all
way.
can see that on the screen because I can't point on the other side.
Yeah.
Try the mouse as well.
But you're telling me
that
that perhaps this could continue south and somehow
turn.
connect in. I would need to see a zoomed out version to understand how that would work.
Right.
But
And
my
that's something
expectation was that this development would be where the alignment occurred for Weiss Lane.
Yep. So you've got that portion here. We can certainly include in your weekly update kind of the southern alignment of that south of this particular tract. This was really provided to kind of to show one that it has that access point, but also more of that layout that y'all had talked about through first reading, and where this particular, the property that we're talking about this evening is laid out.
And this was presented by the applicant, correct?
Yes.
So maybe, Mayor, if it's okay to bring up the applicant.
Sure.
I did have a question about the uses that are in CI that are not in CL5, being the reason why. I mean, obviously, having them combined in one zoning for all land is easier. But what are the allowed usage that?
So in through the allowed uses, the difference here and for this particular request is that light industrial use is permitted by right in campus industrial. Now, that doesn't mean that they don't have to screen their loading docks, and still doesn't permit outdoor storage, but it's permitted by right versus by specific use permit. That's the key for this request.
That's the general use that's being
requested. Okay. Yes.
When you say they would have to screen, is that because of the adjacency to the multifamily or the adjacency to CL5?
So for this particular tract, there'd be buffer requirements. Screening is from public view. And so those, I imagine, are still things that they're working on with our team about screening from public view for Weiss Lane extension.
Does that hold true with the easement between the properties? I imagine there are some pretty tall electric towers in that area. That seems like that distance would potentially preclude screening requirements.
Just get some tall oak trees.
Potentially, right. But we do screening with walls as well. So we'd probably look at more from like the 130 corridor. What can you see from that particular view?
Thank you.
One, Ben Buffkin with Endeavor. Thank you for your time. One question that was asked is the blue triangle. The blue triangle is part of the multifamily tract and it's part of their impervious cover, so it cannot be developed. So that site we inquired about that 2 years ago because it was not part of their plan that was being built, and there's no opportunity there.
So it's a requirement.
It's a requirement, impervious cover requirement.
That's right.
So they're complying with our own requirements.
By holding a piece of property undeveloped.
That's right.
Yeah.
And not integrating that into their development.
There was a question about the alignment of the road. We've kind of been working through this plan with staff for 2.5 years. The road, this is kind of where it ended up, and the connection to the adjacent property south, that was designed to capture a future connection that goes through that allows that to go to Cameron Road. The original contemplation was that Cameron Road would get cut off and kind of no longer exist, and that wasn't compatible with the county. And so we left a future connection.
Wasn't compatible with the county? And did you ask the county for the ability? Because I'm just
the way it was designed, the way it came in, it left you with a.
We'd have abandoned parcels of roadway,
right?
And I don't know that that's really a negative. I would imagine this design on the street really allows you the opportunity to build the angular buildings here. If we curve through the property, you're going to lose a lot of developable land, I imagine, without re-engineering buildings.
It's very inefficient.
That's the answer. You know,
it's inefficient, but we had a design for 18 months that contemplated that.
No, that's fine. That's a bit for our purposes. That's a better answer. Be like, okay, listen, this could happen, but it's inefficient for what we're trying to do.
And I would think that for business, let's say it remains CL5, and the types of businesses that could be included in that are probably not, that piece of property is not the most desirable for those types of businesses.
So can you answer also, Ben, can you answer Councilmember Weiss's other question, which was essentially, hey, you can do this the other way, you just have to go through a different process and you won't have it by right. Why aren't you doing it that way?
We're not doing it because it's such a small tract. You end up with about 4 developable acres. Right. And as Emily mentioned, if you go through the CL5 process, you really don't have by right something that's compatible with this. You've got to go through an SUP process. And the SUP process, when we went through this original rezoning, we looked at doing SUP for the original CL5 for the original site. And kind of the net result was all the things that were going to be overlaid in terms of screening and the way buildings were oriented, that was already covered in CI. And so it's challenging to kind of have 2 different zoning categories and sets of rules, and so CI provides all the things that were going to be required through the SUP.
So it's more efficient to have them zoned the
Right.
same.
That's what.
Could you give me an idea, what's your expected ad valorem value per acre on this site? Or do you have a metric along those lines?
$2 billion.
On the 5 acres of the total?
Well, you said you're going to have an additional, if this goes through, you'd have an additional 4 acres of developable land. I'm trying to understand how much that increases the ad valorem value of the project.
I would say at full lease and stabilization, $10 to $12 million.
Okay.
Cha-ching.
Are there any CL5 uses allowed by right that you could implement on that parcel?
No.
All right, I got to be honest with you. We denied this 5.2 last time it came forward. I thought when I saw it in my packet again that I was going to get, we're just going to get some additional renderings and a harder sales pitch, I guess. But when I saw this, it really made it worse for me seeing the alignment of the road. I'm having a hard time with this one. I appreciate what you're trying to develop here, but I don't feel like you're bringing the value that we're looking for in town.
Can you explain why it matters how Weiss Lane goes over to Cameron, whether it's up on this property or south of this property?
Oh.
I just need clarification. I wasn't part of the original.
Intersections create contention and additional infrastructure costs, and cause traffic to flow less smoothly. So I would expect it to connect through seamlessly rather than have an intersection down in the middle of the bottom of the development.
One thing to clarify, you can't see the red box. What's not shown there in that bend is there's a roundabout. So one of the things that the city asked for is a roundabout to create seamless connection through traffic, which is a challenge for this type of development, but we've worked hard to comply there.
For me, you're not the original sin. The original sin is this complex being there in the first place, which we talked about years ago. That has nothing to do with you. But it is every time I drive by there, it's a very frustrating reminder of why we need to be very careful about our zoning and what's going on over there. And I like the way Doug asked about the road, because it's like, is it too late to go ahead and handle that area from there as well? You're trying to make the best out of a situation that's available to you. I do understand. Your company speaks for itself. You're trying, and I like what you're trying to, the machinations and honestly a lot of different things that you're trying to present here with that. I'd like to see more, but I also know that realistically speaking, that you're not even quite sure what exactly is going to be there yet, given the current market conditions or so. And you've worked with staff, you worked with P&Z on it. I want to give you the benefit of the doubt about it. But yeah, I just want to make sure it's clear that you're not the problem, at all. It started many years ago over here.
So I have a follow-up question. Is how this parcel zoned going to change? Does that impact how the road is designed, or is that an independent?
No.
So it's not dependent on each other.
Unless they're going to start building our road for us.
Yeah, they are independent. There's not a direct relationship between those two things. The zoning on this new, what I'm going to call the orange parcel, has no effect on Weiss Lane directly at all.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions? All right. I move approval of 6A.
Second.
Have a motion and a second.
Move to approve 6A.
Oh my goodness.
Sorry.
Oh my goodness.
Check your batteries.
Bless your heart. Bless your heart.
I guess, yeah. The amplification wasn't working properly.
All right. Motion carried. All right. got your project.
I was like, what?
Yeah, apologies.
Are you sure about that, Doug?
I clicked the wrong button on
Okay.
that one. Would you update the record to reflect my no vote?
Oh,
No, we refuse to allow for that.
motion still carried. Thank you. All right. Moving on to 6B, discuss and consider action regarding issuing a request for qualifications for Project Greenfield. Where do you start?
That's a good question. So,
I feel like there's a lot of fog on this.
I'm sorry?
I feel like there's a lot of fog on this issue, and I would like to postpone consideration of this till a later meeting so we could clear up some of the fog.
I feel as though there are activities already in process that would be detrimental for us to postpone at this point.
I think that at this point, we have to have a conversation about what's happening with this project and get better clarity over it. I'm not talking about what's the relationship between PCDC and the city, but with this specific project, given our setback at the legislature and some things that are out there right now, I think we need to have a conversation about how we're going to move this forward.
Can you
and
start out by
opportunity for
saying
that.
why you felt the need to put this on the agenda? Let's start there.
I think that specifically with this item, we need to have a conversation regarding why is an RFP process or is an RFP process appropriate? Is an RFQ process appropriate? Why are we hearing about RFQs from the PCDC that apparently the city say is not appropriate, but then they're also being told by their own council that it's appropriate? We are, from what I've gathered from the letter that we got from the executive director from PCDC, in fact, they've already gotten responses to their process. But if you look at the information that we've already received from council or from our staff, that's not the appropriate process for that. So it'd be good to figure out, for a better lack of term, who's on first, and then try to figure out, how we go ahead and move forward with this.
And clarification, when we see RFQ, whether it's a request for a quote or for qualifications.
Well, apparently that's the
Since we use
question. Apparently
acronyms often.
apparently that's the question.
That's the question. I'm under the impression that the responses that have been received to date have been acknowledgments, not responses. They haven't been responsive to the RFQ. They've been acknowledgments of receipt and intent to respond.
And I think it's appropriate. I think, Mayor, correct me if I'm wrong here, we actually talked to the executive director and kind of get his perspective. I know we all got an email about it, but it's better for us to better understand.
And I also just want to make sure, I don't know if we need to review an executive session, but we've received an opinion from our council on certain topics of this as well, right?
Well, and it looks to me like the two lawyers have come to opposite conclusions about what the law requires. I'd like to have written briefing from each of them explaining why the other one is wrong and they're right. And I don't think we've got that in front of us, and I think that's another reason why we should delay consideration of this till a later meeting.
So, Mayor,
Is the PCDC attorney present?
Charlie?
Our office has not given a specific legal opinion on whether or not the process that PCDC is going through is legal with right now. What we've given is, here's what the law requires if X, A, B, and C is true. What I don't know is if A, B, and C is true. And so I'm happy to go into closed session and give everybody my thoughts on what the law is on going out for requests for qualifications or.
So what I have in the information that's been provided to me, it says specifically city legal counsel. That's you, right?
Yeah. Yes, my
does
office.
not agree that the request for quote process complies with the Professional Procurement Act.
I read the exact same thing.
Is that,
So there's a miscommunication between myself and staff. I do not know, we do not, there
How
was
about this?
2 or 3
I
email
request executive
exchanges with
session.
respect to this
Mayor,
issue.
When we move to executive session.
Yeah, that might be a good
seek
idea.
legal advice.
Let's go into executive session on this matter.
Is there a game happening?
Hey,
Yeah, where is
when you
everybody?
win a national championship,
Who is?
We're
They don't
back
wanna
from
wait for
executive
executive
session. No action was taken.
I stole this job. And I wrote on it.
Are we waiting on Mr. White?
We're waiting for Doug and David.
Having a discussion with Mr. Rogers.
The two Ds. Jerry, we're gonna have you come speak. So. No, I
took my copy.
And I wrote on yours, so I gave you mine. I already wrote it. I just gave you that one.
Okay.
All right. Mayor, thank you for allowing us to get some clarity on the legal aspect of this. Again, would I ask the executive director of PCDC to come up?
Sure. Jerry?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Here to answer any questions you all may have.
Thank you, Jerry. So you gave us a detailed email enumerating the various different things that occurred with this specific project. Additionally speaking, staff took time to give us a timeline regarding the specific project too. The biggest things that come to mind specifically are that on March 26th, an RFQ, request for qualification, was finalized, notification sent to the newspaper, and a document was ready for publishing for April 2nd, 2025. Were you aware of that?
No, sir.
That request right there? You weren't aware of that?
I was not aware of that. I was aware of the request for qualifications. I was not aware of the notice going to, my understanding was that was a draft that the city staff had worked on.
I'm sorry, a notice is required by law before you send an RFQ. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's just part of the process. Okay.
Go ahead.
I wasn't aware of that process that the city staff was working on as it relates to the notification. I did know about the request for qualifications. Yes.
And when did you join us here at the city?
February the 3rd.
Okay. So you joined us on February 3rd. And so we're looking at about a little more than a month afterwards.
Yes.
Process. Were there meetings that were had with staff? I mean, that's part of the conversation too as well, that you were invited to, or how did you get acclimated with what was going on with the city?
So there was a meeting that we had when I first got here, and it was at Assistant City Manager Thomas Hunter's office. And we discussed kind of just the project in general, very high level. If I can fast forward a little bit, when we received the, I guess you can say the bill, so to speak, for the due diligence work that was done on the property.
When did that happen?
This happened probably, I hate to ask the finance director, but I'm almost wanting to say maybe 2 weeks ago. So 2 weeks ago, we received a invoice from the city for the services that were rendered on Project Greenfield. And so from there, I asked, well, are there any documents that are related to the charges that were made? That's when I was able to receive the documentation for what is in question as to what Project Greenfield entailed on the side of what the consultants provided. I'm trying to word this carefully.
So you received a bill from us for how much?
It's like $36,000. How do I say this? Getting here, before I got here, it was shared with me that this was a project that PCDC needed to lead and get it done. Don't mess this up. We coming after you.
Before you get here or when you arrived?
Before I got here. It was like one of those conversations that once you've signed on and said, yes, you're coming to the community, these are the types of projects that you need to be paying very close attention to and work on. And so getting here, the expectation was Project Greenfield is a project that is going to be a legacy project for the city of Pflugerville, PCDC has started the groundwork on investing and purchasing the property. Our expectation is our executive director leads the project.
And when you said you were told that, were you told that by PCDC members?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's what
this
I was
was
trying
not
to
a
understand.
council conversation.
Okay.
So,
Okay, so you were told that. So your initial impression was, when I come here, I need to hit the ground running on this specific project.
yes.
Were you informed at all that there were other potential properties or aspects that the city and PCDC were looking at? I think in regards to 973, but ultimately this was the land and the project that they landed on.
So what I kind of cheated. I watched all the videos before
That's
I
not
got
cheating.
here.
It's called doing your homework.
So I saw the conversations that took place before I got here. 973 still remains something that we're looking at far as expansion is concerned. But in doing so, I did read the report that was provided by the city that showed that this site and two other sites were more probable to development than the 973 corridor at the moment. So I did see the document that inferred that this was one of these three sites. This one was a really good site to go after.
And you saw alignment with PCDC and the council on that. Is
Yes.
that right? Okay. And the reason why, and I'm sorry, I know you mentioned the bill. We can go back a couple of weeks ago, but the reason why I mentioned that date of the request for qualifications, and like you said, you were aware that there was a request for qualifications, but you were aware of the notification that went to the newspaper. At that point, did you think that this was a PCDC led project or a city led project?
That was the confusion
Okay.
piece. And when I think of PCDC, I see PCDC as the economic development arm for the city government.
One and the same.
Yes, and so working on this project through PCDC on behalf of the council, that is one of the main reasons why everything that we do, the council has to approve it. I mean, even when it comes to, like if we do a contract, we have to bring it before this body for you all to approve it. And so for me, my thought process was, whatever it is that we do over there, it has to be affirmed over here. And that's where I was on this situation.
And to be frank, I think that a lot of us, that's what we think. We think that, hey, listen, we're all on the same team, and that's why we are taken aback. The question was asked, why was this brought up? Is that we're trying to better understand and ascertain what's going on here too, because we thought, hey, listen, we're all on the same team. This is what we're doing moving forward on this. And to your point, with that confusion, what did you do to seek clarification of that after you saw that on March 26th?
We had a conversation.
Who's we?
We had a conversation in executive session with my board.
Okay, so your board had it. Okay.
And let me also kind of state the why behind the request for qualifications concerns that I had with that process. There was a desire for us to go down the road of hiring a owner's representative. Okay. And typically owner's representatives, it's been my experience, put it like that owner's representatives come when there's a project to be led. That they don't come before you even know any due diligence or any what the market is saying that is going to occur on this property. Because, bless you, we can say all day long what we would desire or what we want on that property, but if the market says that it's this, then we need to have a conversation on, do we subsidize by providing infrastructure, whatever it looks like, in order to get what we are saying that the community or the elected body wants out of the project. And so
let's speak. So I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what I'm hearing you say is that in your experience, you don't go ahead, you saw the RFQ and actually an owner's representative. That's not done until you know what the project is. But consequently, since the project wasn't known what specifically the project was, you didn't think that was appropriate, or you didn't I'm not gonna say you
Not
didn't think it was appropriate.
appropriate.
You just didn't think
It
that
was premature.
yeah, to go down that area. And so you met with your board about that.
And we've had conversations. City staff and I have had conversations about my hang up.
When you say
with
city
that.
staff, what do you mean?
City manager's office.
Okay.
We've had conversations in our
So like Thomas,
session.
James,
Yes,
Serena?
that was kind of the hang up for me on that project.
What did they convey when you conveyed that to them? What did they say to you?
That was best practice, and that they've experienced previous times, even with other projects, is what I'm going to say, that has been the best tool for them. But just being quite honest with you, I don't typically like spending money on consultants unless I absolutely have to. And so I just had a philosophical issue with getting an owner's rep who would theoretically get maybe 1 to 5% of the project cost, and we don't know what the project is yet. The market and feasibility has not been conducted, and we don't know what that site is going to yield, and that's why we went this route instead of the request for qualification.
And you're moving it forward. I appreciate that because so what I understand is that then you met with your board and they came to a conclusion. Well, you tell me. I don't want to put words.
They came to a conclusion that we move forward with the caveat that we work with the designated person from the city staff, which Thomas has been my contact on this topic since I got here, honestly.
So, and that was an April 16th meeting.
Yes.
And when you so in this case it would be working with Thomas. And so when you heard working with and you had concerns regarding the procurement, let's be honest, procurement tool that's being used.
Correct.
Is it the tool or is it just the timing of the tool?
I'm going to I can't speak to what hangups that the city staff had.
I'm talking about your concern. Is your concern about using the city's tool, or is your concern about when you use the city's tool?
It's both.
Okay.
So the hang up for me is the moment you go and look at CivCast, the first thing that CivCast promotes is to engineers. This is to a specific niche group of folks who hardly ever would probably look on the city's website to see if there's a market and feasibility study taking place on a retail multi-use site. It's just not something that cities typically work on. It's extremely unique and rare for a city to be leading a mixed-use development. So I can't imagine CivCast having people sitting around waiting, firms waiting to see and look on CivCast for market and feasibility studies on behalf of the city.
So you would think that CivCast would be a more appropriate tool to use once you've decided what you're going to build and you want to find out who's going to build it for you.
Correct.
Then you go to CivCast. But at this point in the process, you view that as premature.
But,
correct.
But CivCast is a tracking system. Nothing precludes us from sending this out to individual organizations and telling them, hey, we want your information, load it through CivCast, and then they can log in and do that, right?
Yes, but the process that we're going through now could easily align with it. I'm not opposed to that. But that's what we're doing. We're actually reaching out to firms all over the country. It's not just firms in the Austin region or in the state of Texas. Anyone who's worked on a project, a mixed-use project that has gotten the slightest bit of recognition, we've went and emailed them to.
That's great. That's great. I appreciate that. What was the $36,000 bill you got from finance? What was that for?
That was for the presentation that was done on January the 28th.
So I think
we don't have a problem with
the concept plan.
Yeah, we don't have a problem.
I think where I'm getting sideways, I guess, what's your expectation? Do you have an estimate of what you expect the prices to be on in response to your request for quote? Is that $100,000? Is it $1 million? Is it $10,000?
We don't have any.
You can't give me an order of magnitude in there.
If it goes anything, what I would be comfortable with seeing is what you're asking.
Yeah.
At first blush, I would probably expect minimum would be somewhere around. I'm definitely hoping nobody is listening to this conversation.
They will be.
That could possibly bid for this. Well, I'm going to say because somebody could be listening.
Give me a range.
My range would probably be somewhere around $50,000 or $49,999. Hopefully somebody hits
You're
that
so
ballpark.
Price is Right. It's unbelievable.
Hopefully somebody hits that ballpark.
Yeah, signing
And
authority.
it's somewhere
I got
around maybe 200,000.
Okay. I guess where I'm coming from, so I'm trying to understand where I feel like I'm hearing the disconnect is that the city's plan, the RFQ that the city provided that you ended up not using is for professional services as an owner's rep to start moving forward on a project, whereas your request for quote is for someone to come in and figure out what project we should be doing. And I guess where I'm getting my wires crossed is, was that $36,000 that we already spent someone telling us what project we should be doing? Is this redundant based on what we've already done?
No, I reviewed the documents. I didn't see. Now let me say this as a caveat. I requested any documents that was related to those bills to be sent.
Who did you request to?
Finance director.
Okay.
And so, based off of the documents that I have reviewed, I didn't see any numbers. I didn't see anything that says X amount of land. If we use, these types of uses, this is what you can expect for as how much it's going to cost. I didn't see anything.
Because I thought we were pretty clear in that. Going through that process that, higher education, hotel conference center, things like that were included in, the conversations that we had had.
I remember that conversation, and this was a conceptual plan of what we are thinking about.
What we could
And
do.
they said I remembered them saying we need to go out to the market and see what could actually be done, because I didn't agree with everything on that concept plan, so I hope that wasn't like the final one, say, go do this.
No, and that's,
Okay, so-
that's what I'm trying to understand.
Yeah.
So from a city perspective, was that plan the marching orders for the RF qualifications, or does the RF qualifications include a market study?
Yeah, I think that's the question.
Because I'm seeing some stuff in here that seems like it's designing the project. I don't see market study specifically.
Well, and to pick up on Councilman Chair's earlier point about our legislative setback.
Can I get city staff to answer that for me first?
Sure. We can, how about Thomas, you want to walk us through requests for qualifications and what all's in that document?
Okay. Which document do you
The
want?
request for qualifications, like how did we get there?
Services for Project Greenfield is the one we provide with. Is there a different one?
No, that is the
No.
one. Sorry. So that request for qualifications is consistent with the presentations that were given to council and PCDC that walks you through. And if y'all remember, there was a very specific phasing and timeline slides that we gave y'all. So that walks you all the way through phase 2. It starts with market assessment and feasibility based on the conceptual work that was done by the consultants that the city hired. Following that, there was concept refinement phases. There was additional services to prepare some of those concepts so that you could have options that would be brought forward from that consultant to inform you relative to financing options, public-private partnership options, and really act as a guiding North Star to say, here's your risk-reward scenarios for what's potential on the site, what we think the market can support, what we think you would need to do in order to incentivize certain things. If you wanted to go above and beyond on this portion of the project, here's different alternatives and ways you could incentivize. Really some recommendations on what capital or infrastructure considerations could be put in there. So very all-encompassing to get you to the point where you had actionable information and a menu of options to make decisions prior to going to a point where you're actually hiring somebody to construct something. So this was a kind of a getting you to the point of decision making prior to construction. If that makes
All right.
sense.
It does, and I apologize since we just got this document a little bit earlier today, so I am looking at section 2B1 bullet 3 where it does say may include but not necessarily limited to project management, market analysis, infrastructure planning, phasing, engineering, land planning. P3s. So I guess that market analysis was reflected or is reflected in the RFQ.
It is an RFQ, and it was it was the first action in phase 2 on those slides that we showed y'all and PCDC.
What we do next, David? You were going to say something.
I wanted to pick up on what you had said earlier about our legislative setback, because obviously when we were looking at January, we were thinking about a hotel as a key part of this, and we envisioned that we would be successful in attempting to get the legislation passed, as we had all voted for, instructed our legislative subcommittee and our representative at the Capitol to work for. And of course, for the first time since 2007, no similar legislation got passed, except of course for the one for Amarillo. So we have a setback there in terms of putting our plan together. We have a missing element there that might necessitate reviewing the scope of the project and going back and re-looking at the market analysis in that light.
And I think so. I think what Councilmember Weiss, what Doug said and asked, makes clear that from the city standpoint, that what was presented, and that's why I love the way you put it, Melody. You're like, hey, wait a minute, there's some things to disagree with, but that was part of the concept. This was part of what the process was looking from that. But it sounds like from your standpoint, you're like, well, I didn't look at it that way. There wasn't an affirmative vote made one way or the other on this. It sounded like y'all were just still talking about what you'd like there, as opposed to what we were looking over there. And that's why you said that. That's why a request for quotes is why, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but why you thought that procurement method would be an appropriate one as compared to your concerns with the request for qualifications and what we're going at. Is that right?
No, when you guys talk, I definitely listen. So
Okay.
I took what you were saying as just because you didn't take a position on it, you said it, so you obviously felt that way. So the hang-up is not really the request for quotes versus request for qualifications, because even within the request for quotes, they have to provide their qualifications, and whomever's going to work on the project, they have to provide that information.
But let's be clear. Those are two very different procurement processes, though, right?
They are different processes. Okay. The hang-up for me is not really the tool per se. When it comes to it, it's more so the owner's rep. Once you get an owner's rep, it's like getting married. Once you get married, you're stuck in that relationship with that person until you decide to get a divorce. And so we don't know what the project is. It's like making a commitment to someone and you haven't done the due diligence to check and see what does the market say. And then once you find out what the market says and we share it with the council and share it with PCDC, then we can have a conversation on, okay, the next step should be to go down this route and to go towards concepts and engineering and the other parts of the development. But when you ask, we've already made one investment. The council and PCDC has already made one investment in purchasing the property. Whatever it is that's placed on this property, it is going to be the finite. And so I want to make sure that we get the data that says what is going to give the highest and best use on the site, and then allow the council and the PCDC to make the conclusion from there. and then we can march forward.
Which makes sense. But Serena, what were you trying to say regarding?
It may not be worth the conversation now, but the owner's rep is very different than a construction owner's rep.
Okay, so can you
for example, in downtown East, whenever you hired Hyatt Brown, you also hired AGCM, and they take you through the market analysis, et cetera. It's a little bit different than what I think most people assume an owner's rep is for construction.
Okay.
That's different.
So so you may both be using the term owner's
Yeah, but
rep,
we mean owner's rep for a project, not for a building.
and
Absolutely. We agree on that.
I agree you bring him in earlier then, because they're more than the building.
That's where I.
Okay. So
Because you don't have staff to do it, and I don't either. Like, that's why you hire someone to do this.
Jerry, can you tell me, in your experience, in your past employment, how many times have you hired an owner's rep? Is that never? Is it 10? Is it 100?
Too many times to count?
Not once.
Or not once?
It looks like
not once.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So it either was done in-house or it was done through staff until we selected a project manager for it. Now, we might be using words with friends here when I say project manager versus owner's rep, but we didn't do owner's reps. We've done project managers.
And you say we as to what Councilmember Weiss was saying in your
Yes,
past.
correct.
I got you.
And that doesn't mean that we can't do them now. I'm not opposed to an owner's rep. It's the timing. Like, for instance, perfect example. I can say that I want a Sprouts on that site. But the first thing Sprouts is going to do is they're going to do the due diligence to see whether or not it numbers out and makes sense. And then they'll start going down the line for as development is concerned. Anytime I stand in front of the PCDC or the city council and I'm saying we should go down this road, you guys get to hold me to that. And so for me, Jerry don't look good in orange with numbers on his back, okay? So I'm making sure that data tells me this is the direction that we can go in. So that's
and to be clear, from what I'm understanding, though, is that just like you said, it's regarding the timing. You've seen that the city has had success with an owner's rep, as we've done with High Ground. I think they've done an excellent job regarding downtown East for that. And that's a different experience than what you've had because you haven't had one in that process before. And so,
Well,
because
just to clarify,
Go
though,
ahead.
the owner's rep for downtown East, you had the concept of what you wanted to do. So that's not.
No, not necessarily.
No, that's not
I mean,
true.
you knew a city hall, and you knew you had one at a recreation center.
Not for phase two. No, I would not agree with that.
So this is not too this is not too dissimilar from what we did with downtown. It's where, hey, we've got great ideas, these sound good, but they go do the market because we're not the SMEs, we don't know what's going on.
Call us crazy, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Tell us why we're nuts.
For clarification, though, so the PCDC board, what I'm saying, PCDC board directed to do a market analysis. So that was a singular market analysis, which was only one piece of what was included here in the
when was
request.
The April 16th.
Well, that's just the summary that was written down here on April 16th.
It says market analysis.
So it just says marketing analysis. So that's
it's marketing and feasibility.
marketing and feasibility. So so what was on the request for qualifications was a market analysis plus other things that weren't specifically directed by the PCDC board. So just want to be clarify what the PCDC board voted on. Because if they only voted on a certain piece, then wouldn't that be, that would be what you would pursue? I don't know.
I didn't see action details in the minutes, so I couldn't tell you. I'd have to go watch the video.
And it sounds like it sounds like to your point. That's what the direction was, and you said it yourself, to work with Thomas, to work with staff over here with that. So part of it, and because I'm hearing a lot of, I'm going to go back to who's on first, like you two ships passing in the night because of the terms y'all are using over here. Did you know that the city has specific, the PCDC has already contracted and said that it will follow the city's procurement processes?
I wasn't aware that we had to follow procurement processes by the city as relates to contracting and stuff because EDCs have a particular difference in. So that is definitely something that we'll probably
Is
have
that
to
the
have a
first
deeper
time you've heard
conversation
that?
about.
Is this the first time you've heard that?
Let me say this, before we went forward with the process, yes. So when I clicked,
When you say we,
when I
who's we?
clicked submit on the RFQ, there was a conversation that I had.
And let's
with
be clear,
someone.
request for quotes, and you said we.
There was a conversation.
You mean PCDC?
Yes.
Okay.
There was a conversation that occurred that said this is probably going to come up, and I was asking, "What is this?" And then it was, well, there was an agreement that was signed between PCDC and the city that the PCDC would follow the city's procurement processes.
Okay.
And that's when I asked the question. I was like, even in previous places, the EDCs have a different process. The legislation created it so that it could not have to be kind of mired down in the other process.
And you're exactly right.
So I was like, what do you mean?
Okay.
So yes. So I want to make sure I'm being truthful when I say after it was submitted, that's when a follow-up conversation from someone shared that with me.
So just to be clear, before you said click, before you sent, you posted it, you weren't aware that there was an agreement between PCDC and the city that the PCDC would follow the city's procurement process, but you were aware because you had been an executive director for an EDC
Yes.
prior to this, that there were specific processes that EDCs can follow that are different from the cities. They have their own processes. That's what you're aware of.
Interesting enough,
Okay.
even in my previous role, I served under the city staff. So we still carved out the ability to be able to do the EDC work without following the city, I guess you can say mandates or policies or however you want to word it. And it's creative, I'll say that, because there's certain things that cities legislatively can't do that legislatively economic development corporations can. There's certain things that city can't buy that economic development corporation can. And it's just, that's why I found that interesting.
So after you were told that, what did you do?
It's too late. I mean, the sin had already occurred. The article had already been stated. It was already in full force.
So is there nothing? So then that leads us. I guess we can fast forward to where we're at right now. You're saying that it's too late to pull that request for quotes down.
Well, nothing's too late. I mean, you can pull it down. Now, how
does that play?
Yeah, I mean,
which is a different question.
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely pull it down.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
you can pull it down. I mean, they pulled down this position before I.
Oh yeah, we were sitting here.
I saw it. I watched it.
Yeah. Because again, what it sounds like, and another reason why I appreciate Mayor Pro Tem asking the question, why are we talking about this, is to me, from the outside, not being involved in these conversations, it's a lot of talking past each other on things.
I wouldn't.
And because even when you stated specifically that, hey, listen, I don't have a problem with an owner's rep. I'm talking about the timing with that. I don't know if that was necessarily made clear with that prior to having this conversation right now. And from the standpoint here, what we're looking at is trying to make sure that this project's a success, because that's what's happened with Downtown East. This is important. I love the way Councilmember Rogers put it. We had a setback. With regard to what we'd like to do from a legislative standpoint. So then that means that we need to make sure that we're clear, coherent, and accurate in how we're actually going to execute this project, look at some of the phase and everything else from that. So from my standpoint, I would look at this and say, okay, listen, that means that we probably do need to get somebody in here who is not us, who can kind of guide us about, okay, this is where we're at now, what tools, what should we look at regarding phasing, what's pragmatic and what's working from there, from that, which would fall under a request for qualifications. The request for quotes, there's nothing, and again, I'm going to say it right here so everyone's clear about this. It's nothing illegal about what you did. There's nothing illegal about how you went the process. In fact, you did that based on how you were trained, what you were cognizant of, what you believed was the appropriate action to go from that. And that's a very different conversation than saying, hey, listen, PCDC did X, Y, and Z. No, this is what you thought what the process was.
And can I say, I don't believe that it's like two ships passing in the night. And we had this conversation. Well, I don't know if I can say that we had this conversation. There was a conversation amongst. Can I? No, I can't. I'm trying to figure out if I can say something that was said.
Jerry, just say what you need to say.
Okay, because I'm trying to make sure I don't say anything that's
nothing privileged.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to make sure I don't say anything that's privileged. The statement, the question was asked. When there's a disagreement between city staff and PCDC staff on a particular topic, who is it that moves forward? How does it move forward? And what I will say is that I think the deeper conversation at this point needs to be who is going to be the driving force for this project, and I will tell you why. You guys know I love to eat. I love to eat. I've never been to a restaurant where they have more than one executive chef in the kitchen. And so I've never driven in a car or rode in a car, thank goodness, where there was two steering wheels in the car. So someone's got to drive and someone's got to ride. And so this will continue to happen until it's clear that we're going to move in a direction in a collaborative manner. And collaborative manner means also fully communicating with one another in order to move the project forward.
Do you think there hasn't been full communication?
So, Jerry, to that point,
communication is I'm sorry.
You used the word which was what was discussed in the PCDC Executive Committee in terms of who was leading the project. And the board directed you to lead the project with collaboration with the city.
Correct.
So that's kind of what we thought was going to happen. And if there hasn't been collaboration or working jointly, then we need to address that.
I'll say this. I believe that we have collaborated. I just don't believe that we've agreed fully on what direction. The tool. The tool is the hang up, and the timing by which the owner's rep is the issue. And I'll give you a perfect example to what Councilman Rogers was speaking to when it comes to the hotel legislation. Yes, you'll have to wait 2 years before we can enter into that opportunity again. But in the meantime, a study still will be relevant because you'll be able to say, if I have this designation, here's what the cost will be, here's what the projections are, here's what the feasibility, and here's what could go on that site. If I don't have that designation and I lose the state's portion of the sales tax within 1,000 feet radius of the convention center walls, here's what the cost will be. Either way it goes, anyone who's looking at that site, and if it's truly going to be a regional destination site, it's going to attract a hotelier. The question will be, will it be a hotelier of a nicer flag because it has that qualified hotel program designation, or if it will be lesser because it doesn't have that qualified hotel program designation. So the study doesn't change on the feasibility of the hotel. You still got to know the numbers, right? The only difference is that we just all know that we don't have that designation at the moment.
Do you understand? And I appreciate you saying that because, again, it sounds like the base facts and what we're talking about here, people agree on. It sounds just like you said, who's steering the wheel, and it made me think of audibly of Disney World when I ride with my daughter, and I have my own wheel, and she's got hers over here. But how that jerks around and works from that. But to Mayor's point, the collaboration, you understand from the city staff, what we're hearing is that there isn't collaboration, and that's the concern. Is that what is that? I mean, and that's where the Mayor's point is like us. What do we say that looks like? Because from my standpoint is that we have done a good job with like an owner's rep before with that, and it's like, go do it. Go replicate that and go do it. You haven't seen that before. That should have been like a major my opinion, a major conversation point to say, hey, listen, this is why it's happened from that. And somebody wants to get out of here. And so, I think it's probably incumbent on us as a council to say, hey, listen, let's go ahead and, add that market direction regarding one way or the other on this, so we can work on that. Because you have no problems working with the city, right?
No, absolutely not.
And participating in the meetings, you're gonna, every meeting, everything that's appropriate, that's gonna be there. You'll make sure you're there. Everything else organized, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And my expectation when we talk about collaboration, especially when we talk about collaboration with staff, is consensus building. I expect before we're moving forward, everyone's on the same page. And if there are disagreements, when we say, hey, who's steering the ship, that may need to be a joint meeting, or at least needs to be a resolution of a board. Because if our staffs are not in consensus, if they are not on the same page, then we're not moving forward yet. It's not time yet. So my expectation when we say collaboration is consensus building. And I don't know if y'all agree with me on that, but that's my expectation.
I was about to say, the way I don't know if this really consistent, but like, hey, listen, just like we do. Hey, a decision's made. It is what it is. Let's move forward.
We need to all be on the same page.
That's it. We go with that.
It sure doesn't sound like we were on this process.
No, it doesn't. And it sounds like we needed to be more firm, because again, you're even hearing amongst us that we thought, hey, wait a minute, I thought we were I thought this is what we're doing, but I just like the way you brought it up. You're like, wait, I
thought we should have been taking these steps 2 months ago. So
I think that it might very well behoove us to have a joint meeting with the board to make sure that we're all on the same page. But I think that a critical piece of informing that meeting is a market analysis. I feel like if we don't know, we can have all the ideas in the world. I'd love to have, a new NASA facility out there. If that's, a complete pipe dream, I need to know that.
Absolutely.
And say, well, maybe the NASA facility expansion in Pflugerville isn't going to happen, and look at something that might be supportable by the market.
I think that's a great point. I think you're right about that. And I think that's why, from my opinion, that's why the request for quotes, because we can't do that if we decide, hey, listen, this is what the city's steering the ship over here with that. We only can do that if PCDC is. So we should go ahead and say, okay, listen, request for quotes. Let's all meet, take that down, let's put a pause, let's all meet, let's have a conversation about who's steering the ship, and then decide from that. So then we're using the appropriate thing, because it's in the RFQ has, it's in the RFQ.
I feel like we just did a 180. I'm got spun around here, my head's spinning. What's our next step?
Can I throw one thing out?
We should move forward with the request for quote, and then have a joint meeting?
I said pull down the request for quote.
You said pull down, okay, because I just heard you agree with me.
So I don't think we're on the same page.
I want to make sure, like I said, hey, disappointment is unmet expectations.
Yeah. So
expectations are out there.
But I think we need to know, and I don't know what the right mechanism is to get there.
The procurement mechanism.
But we need to understand what the market will bear. We need a market analysis.
Of course.
Yeah.
And
somebody's got to do that.
And but the only way that we could follow it legally, because again, RFQs cities do, our request for qualification cities do, request for quotes are what economic development arms do. So we don't know who's going to go and lead it. So if we already had an agreement in place that you follow the procurement methods of the city, if we know that if we actually end up doing a request for qualifications, it's still okay for the economic development arm to do so. So I think it's prudent to take down the request for quotes, and then after that, have a meeting with the two boards, decide in the direction, and then actually execute that. I agree with you that it should have been done a couple months ago, but at the same time, he got here February 3rd. And,
So, but the other thing is, well, this particular request for qualifications has a much wider scope, therefore
say
a
that.
much bigger budget and expense, most likely, if we just want the market study and feasibility versus all of this other stuff with construction management, land planning, and all of those things. So with the change in the legislation, should we just do the first piece, which was what PCDC board authorized the executive director to do, or should we do that first piece plus all of this stuff when situations have changed?
So you're asking like bite-sized pieces,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So I think from my
I don't know.
perspective, what the way I'm seeing this, because when we do a request for qualifications, we're hiring a professional services firm, and then we're negotiating the specific pieces that they're going to do. So we'll get those bite-sized pieces at that point. I think from my perspective, what I'm looking at is we purchased this land, we want to do something with it. Are we going to go do a market analysis and say, oh, wait, never mind, we don't want to do anything with it? Are we going to go do a market analysis and say, oh, okay, that's what we need to do, let's move on to the next step? I want to have everything teed up so that we're ready to go through the steps. We don't know. This gives us the agreement with an organization that then allows us to move forward rather than go out and do a request for services for each individual step. I feel like it's the right way to go because it sets us up for success moving forward.
I disagree because if we do the market analysis and the market analysis comes back and says, you know what?
Great place to grow corn.
Or it says you really need a spaceport right there. If we hired the same people who did the development of the George R. Brown Convention Center in Houston, they are not spaceport people, and we are in bed with the wrong guys.
But a market analysis is not static, though. It can change at any time.
But my point is, the guys that you hire to be the owner's rep depend in part on what the market analysis is. What are you going to do? Do you need a firm that does spaceport work, or do you need a firm that does George R. Brown Convention Center work? Those are not the same.
I think
Those
that's
are not
the sub of the owner's
as owner's reps.
So I want to remind this council that, I mean, we have had this. This is the exact situation that's happened before. Let's talk. I mean, what downtown East looks like now was definitely not what we thought from the onset from that. And we did have an owner's rep in place who told, literally pivoted and told us this is what the market conditions are going. You're in the middle of a recession. Yeah.
Well,
whatever. Yeah.
Deluge.
Yeah. Exactly. Hey, you need
office space.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
overbuilt.
You need to pivot to A, B, C, and D. So we've already have an example that if we follow this process, we're still able to do it. It's not. I mean, to your point, it's not mutually exclusive. Like it's not going to. But it's not going to lock us in. I can understand why Jerry's saying that because in his experience, hey, wait a minute. He hasn't had this person over here as well, and he's like, hey, listen, I don't want to get locked in. I don't want to waste money over here as well. But in our experience and in experience with staff, that's happened before. Again, I just want to again make it clear. Remember the conversation we had when they came to us and said, sorry, y'all, you can't do this right now. The market's not going to allow you to do this.
But
You need to pivot.
the fundamentals, as Councilwoman Orion pointed out, the fundamental part of downtown East was always City Hall and Rec Center. And then what else are we going to do with that has changed dramatically. But that was always the central piece of
Not
what
in the
we
very
were doing
beginning.
downtown East.
No, it wasn't.
Yes.
That is why we
It was
bought
on the bond
land.
committee when we decided to authorize with the land.
That was absolutely always the central piece. And it's still the central piece.
Yeah.
No,
What the extra
recreation
pieces
center
are
absolutely was, that was part of it.
have changed over time.
We didn't know that we were going to move the recreation center over there because we even had the opportunity to say, what do we just tear down the one that we got over there and put it from that? And then because it was a P3, the whole idea was the P3 was the key.
No,
aspect.
the recreation center was definitely part of that from the very beginning, and I didn't agree with that, and that's why I didn't move forward on any of the other committees. So it definitely was recreation center because because you could also use the bond money from the recreation center land to go towards that. So it was always from almost the beginning, City Hall Recreation Center.
Yeah,
Yeah, not at the very first meeting of the bond committee when we're talking about buying that land.
I remember Councilman Weiss, you and I went back and forth about that because you thought it would be worth considering whether or not to put the rec center over by the lake or somewhere else east.
Probably on this part.
Anyway, anyway.
There were definitely iterations.
Thank you, Mayor.
So, Mayor,
Can we get back on track?
So, Mayor, what I would ask, and I don't know if we have to have a formal action or how we can do that, is that we ask PCDC's executive director to pull down the request for quotes and then schedule a meeting. I would hope our next meeting, because we're running out of time, our next council meeting to have a meeting with PCDC board and have a conversation about how we want to move forward on this.
So will we not be determining tonight who's driving the car?
Right.
Because,
I'd rather have go ahead.
okay, I just want to reiterate that whoever's driving the car determines the processes.
Yeah.
What the queue means,
Yeah.
basically.
What the Q means, I love that.
That's what
Yeah.
that's what we're at.
Yeah, I agree. I think it'll also be important, it is important to include the PCDC board in that conversation.
Yeah, we need to hear from. I think so.
Question. In doing so, are we, whichever way this body decides that we go in, that's the way we go. Same way with the PCDC. I tell them my title is executive director and I execute what they direct me to do. And so that's the whole purpose of being an executive director. I do want us to get to the point of who is going to drive the vehicle. Because if the only role that I need to play as the executive director is to process the checks so that the city staff can do the project, I'm not completely opposed to it. I'm not a fan of it, but I'm not opposed to it if that is the direction that's best suited, because if we cannot work together, and collaboration is consensus, and it's being, this opportunity is just too big for us to be.
So, Jerry, I don't mean to cut you off, but that's not my expectation.
Okay,
I don't think it's anyone's expectation
to get it done,
for you to
is
sit
what
over
I'm
here with
saying.
that as well. So but I think I think that way. I mean, we need to define. Apparently, we need to define what collaboration looks like, and to Mayor's point, and have that forward. And I don't feel like we should be having that conversation without PCDC's board here with that, so we can input from that. Does that make sense? I mean,
Absolutely. Makes a
one
lot of
person
sense.
there. Okay. Do we need to vote? I mean, now we need to probably be more clear on what we need to vote. Do we need to vote on that?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's on there for.
Is it? Okay, all right.
I think it's more clear if there's a vote.
And can I also throw one other thing out? Whatever we do discuss going forward, far as the project, we do need to declare a new project. Well, back up. PCDC needs to declare a new project because Project Greenfield, according to our attorney, stated that Project Greenfield was for the due diligence of the initial purchase of the property and was for the bond purchase and securing the land. And so our next meeting is going to discuss creating a new project to fund the developmental side of this project. It sounds like we may need to hold off on doing that as well. And so whenever a motion is made today, it probably should be to direct the PCDC board just for
Right. We don't have direct authority over the PCDC director.
Exactly. And Mayor, while we're talking about this, yes, we'd like the executive director for PCDC. We'd like the PCDC board. I'd also like the council for PCDC to be here. And I would like for our council to speak with the council from PCDC beforehand so we can get a better, there's a lot of
There's some questions about the legal and factual basis.
Jerry, Councilmember, I just literally sent myself an email 2 minutes ago saying I need to call the PCDC.
Well, but Jerry, can you tell me, does your council have a conflict on Tuesday evenings?
If he does, does he have somebody he can work with?
Okay.
But I mean, he gets paid to
He should back up.
he gets paid to be available to be here.
He
so,
should.
And
I'm
frankly, I mean,
sure
so
he
from
would
my
make himself
perspective,
available.
from my perspective, Project Greenfield is, you know, the entire soup to nuts on this project. But if it's a different project for you, you know, then it's Greenfield 2 or Bluefield in recognition of Pride Month, right?
And
Just the next color in the rainbow.
And in fairness to
just
him,
move forward.
we didn't know that this was on the agenda until Friday. So,
No. We're not saying
that's fine.
we're not saying that. What we're saying to what Doug is saying is what Doug is saying is that we just want to you just conveyed something that your attorneys conveyed to us.
Project name, that's an easy problem to solve.
Correct.
It's a new project.
We just want to make sure our legal counsels
follow through. Yeah.
The Project Spaceport.
The key isn't the name of the project. The key is ensuring that that there is project authority in the statute for what this body and the PCDC decide they want to do with the property. Because you can only use PCDC dollars as authorized by the statute.
Correct.
So, Mayor,
And we sent all that to the AG, and I put that in the stop. Early on, we showed the scope, we showed everything.
it's okay. Again,
So our scope to the AG was the entire, until it's all constructed.
Is the entire, I mean,
The entire project.
It's the art.
Not just purchasing the land.
Yeah.
that's right, so I'm.
Okay.
So I didn't
don't
see
have
that.
to change the name.
Right, yeah. So could you send that to me? Because
Yeah, your staff has it, but
I don't remember seeing it.
Okay.
You don't remember seeing the stuff that we sent to
That
the
should have
Attorney
sent to
General?
AG. No, I don't remember seeing that.
That wouldn't have been approved by your office first?
I do not remember seeing it.
We can talk about this.
It may have
Okay.
gone through bond council.
So,
Okay.
do I need
It
do I need to restate my motion?
Yeah, go ahead and make it as a motion. Would you?
Mayor, motion for us to pause and take down the request for quote to direct or do we direct PCDC? How does that ask request?
Request.
That's a request. We can't direct them. Request to the PCDC executive director to take down the requests for quotes and schedule a meeting at our next meeting with the executive director, the entire PCDC board, and their council to speak about whatever you want to call this, Project Greenfield, whatever you want to say that, and direction moving forward on it.
Second.
Motion and a second. Motion carried. And Jerry, I guess you'll follow through on that. Okay. All right. Moving on to the items that were pulled from the consent agenda, 5E.
Yes, 5E is approving a change order, the amount of $728,555 for the construction contract for the Neighborhood Street Reconstruction Package Number 1B with Patton Construction LLC, and authorizing the city manager to execute the same.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Are there any specific questions, or would you like me to?
Did you want a full?
No, so from my perspective, I had several concerns, and I think I just wanted to more so voice those concerns in the interest of transparency. When I read this, I recognized that we originally approved the contract for construction, I believe, in January of 24.
Yes, sir.
That's accurate. And then we found out we had some utility relocation issues, and those were cleared around August.
Correct.
Okay. But in the meantime, we had some deficiencies in some other projects based on the specifications we were using to bid this.
Yes, so
We experienced some defects in the construction.
we did see some minor defects in some of the previous road work that was done on a similar project
Okay.
that shared the same construction specification as Package 1B.
Okay. So then we went back to the engineering firm, and as I understand it, at no additional cost to us, the engineering firm revised the specifications, resulting in a construction cost that was nearly double. And then they went back and refined those engineering specifications and came back with this, I think it's roughly 14% change order.
That's correct.
So I have concerns that we had defects. When we went to try to fix those defects, or remediate those with the design, we ended up with something that was twice as big, and then we pared it down. So I'm concerned we could still have defects at the level that we're moving forward with. I'm also frustrated that it's taken so long for us to get to this point. I don't know why we didn't begin construction back in August when we cleared utilities. I guess we were still refining the engineering. I've stressed, especially during budget season, that we complete the projects that we commit to, and I feel like this one is going to be a year and a half late, and that's disappointing. So that's really what I needed to discuss.
You know, and you expected the conversation. That's not. That's not. You know, that's on brand. What happened?
Well, the project was designed, so the contract was approved with Patent Construction in January 2024. Following that construction contract being approved, we started utility relocation, which is generally the first phase you do in a project.
I thought, let me stop you there real quick. I thought we didn't let the contracts until utility relocation was complete. We experienced issues with that with some other road projects, Kelly Lane, other things where I thought we weren't moving forward with the project until we were ready to move forward with the project. Why did we approve it in January if we weren't going to be ready for construction until much later than that?
I can't speak to that necessarily because I kind of started overseeing traffic transportation engineering in October of 2023 when it was already designed and it was being bid then.
Okay. Did we know at that point that we needed to do utility relocation?
I was about to say, did we know we had a utility issue?
I'm assuming these are overhead, not underground utilities.
This utility in particular is Atmos, so it's in underground.
Okay,
it's underground.
It's underground. That is dry underground. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. That movie.
But did we know in the design and engineering that the utility relocation needed to occur?
I believe we did, and if I do have half engineering who's here, who designed the project as well as Patton.
Okay.
And I think to speak to that, since it was a little bit previous to me during the design of the project.
Can you give me an idea? Have we bid any other projects that have utility relocations that are still pending?
No, not that I can think of.
Is that a standard practice at this point that we don't bid them or we don't accept or award the bids until we're ready until the utility relocation has been complete? Is that a best practice, or is that?
Well, and let's be clear. Like, be honest with us. Either way, one way or the other, because we know that we were pretty hard on Kelly Lane because that was ridiculous. I mean, that just was ridiculous. So we may have said at some point, like, dude, we don't care. Get started on this. So we want to be clear that we didn't. Nothing's changed because the better process would be move the utilities and then bid it. But if we said something that forced you to jump the gun on that, just let us know.
Yeah, and obviously what you're hearing from me is a little bit of disappointment. I don't mean to take that out on you, but I say it frequently, right? Disappointment is unmet expectations, and my expectation is we're not awarding the contract until we're ready to start moving dirt. And that obviously wasn't the case on this one, but I want to ensure that is the case going forward, or I need to reset my expectations.
We loud and clear. Peyton did hold the price for us, but loud and clear. Got it. Thank you.
Okay. You good?
Yeah. I think David had some questions.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I think you covered the basis. Thank you.
All right.
I'll make a motion to approve 5E.
I'll second.
Second.
Motion carried.
We just know sometimes we get cranky, so we just want to make sure we're clear.
Thank you.
Fine.
Valid
Okay.
Yeah. It is.
See, coming back.
Okay. All right. I believe that is it, council. We're adjourned.
Okay. We done?